Hey everybody, Questwise here, and today we're back again with another low fantasy gaming exploration of this game by Pickpocket Press. Uh, if you've seen the previous videos, you know that I've kind of fallen in love with this game, and it's pretty awesome, and there's a lot of stuff to explore. And today I want to talk about something that's uh, sometimes often overlooked, at least the narrative aspects of it in role playing games, especially in fantasy games, and that's traps. I want to talk about traps a little bit today, and what Pickpocket Press and Stephen Gradzicki, man, I cannot talk today, have done, excuse me, have done with traps in this game is very interesting, and I think they've really brought back that sort of sense of narrativeness of a trap in the game. Now, in my experience of playing fantasy role playing games, traps are often sometimes exciting because they can be sort of fit into a kind of a puzzle type scenario, but oftentimes it's the thief using some kind of tools, rolls to see if he discovers it and or disarms it. Successful, it just happens, you move on. What they've done in this game is very interesting, is that it's sort of modified the traps a little bit to make them a little bit more, like I said, narratively interesting. The idea behind finding a trap and disarming a trap is going to be very familiar to you if you've played other fantasy role playing games before, or other games that incorporate traps. But what's really interesting is this search event table that's on page 231, and this is what really captured my eye and why I wanted to talk about traps today. Is it's a 2d6 table that you roll on during which you when you're searching for a trap. And so when something happens, the game master calls for you to roll, or calls a roll to be made on this chart. There's a number of different things that can happen, and I found this really cool. So, for instance, you might find a helpful clue or a piece of random gear. That's cool. That's fine. On a certain roll, you might the player or the game master would introduce a piece of world building lore that's sort of tied to that trap. Like it might be specifically covered in certain runes, or it might be a trap that's specific to a certain nation of creatures or people, right? And it kind of builds into the world lore. One of the other kind of things it's a kind of a negative effect, but I found really cool, is that sometimes when you're searching, maybe your torch goes out, or you break a tool, or something like that. It sort of adds to the narrative. It gives a little bit more life to the world, and I really appreciate that. It also goes into simple things like simple and complex traps, those you find in other things, mechanical versus magical traps, those things as well too. There's different ways. There's charts on what types of trap they are. So maybe you got into a bind as a game master, and you're trying to find, you want to throw a trap in their way to slow them down for a minute, to give you a second to think. There's some charts in here that allow you to do that kind of thing. You just roll in this chart. It tells you whether it's a gas trap, an arrow trap, blades, that kind of thing. It gives you a second to sort of reset and figure out where you need to be, if that's what you needed. Or if you're sitting down to plan your session or part of the campaign, you can roll on these to give you some great ideas. And then there are certain other charts in there as well too that focus upon things like the specific types of traps. So arrow traps and crushing walls and acid, they all have a chunk of, if you want the trap to be a simple trap, a moderate trap, a very complex trap. Those kind of major damaging kind of thing as well too. The traps page covers quite a few pages because you have all these charts of things on how to bypass traps, what they are kind of thing, the sort of complexity of the traps and all that kind of stuff as well too. And then on page 238, there's a great spread on complex traps and things and how they work, to make them more of a puzzle type of encounter as opposed to just a pit trap that your party might fall into. So very complex traps and stuff as well too. I just wanted to touch on that real quick because I found that really interesting, and I know that I'm going to use these rules to incorporate more of a narrative trap type system into my game. And this could be anything from placing them in ruins or in dungeons, or even I was thinking while I was reading over this whole thing of maybe placing traps like in a city campaign, an urban campaign, where maybe your players are tracking a thieves guild, And as they're sort of collecting clues and putting together the ideas and trying to follow these things, the Thieves Guild find out about this, right? And they know that you're coming, and so they begin to set up snares and traps and obstacles in your way to try to hamper you from figuring out, where they're located, or where their base is, that kind of stuff as well too. So again, low fantasy gaming. I love this game. It's just really, really great. Really, really reinstilled my passion for fantasy gaming with some grit and some grime and some very narrative concepts. So until next time, I'm Questwise, and I am out. Hey there, fellow questing knights. If you're looking to collect vintage RPGs, or would like to start and you don't know where to go, or if you're looking for a supplement to fill in that hole in your collection, I highly recommend Wayne's Books. Yeah, that's right. Wayne's Books, since 2002, have sold thousands of vintage RPGs. I highly recommend them. I've used them in the past, and I have nothing but 100% satisfaction with their service. So if you get a chance, swing on over to Wayne's Books and pick up everything you'll need vintage RPG-wise. I'm Questwise, and until next time, I am out.